Terminator 2: Judgment Day is widely regarded as one of the greatest sci-fi action films of all time. But if you look closely, you'll see that it clearly copied its predecessor, the Terminator. In this video, I'm going to show how T2 copies T1's plot, scene sequences, and specific actions. By the end, not only will you have a far better understanding of both films, but you'll realize that T2 isn't nearly as groundbreaking as it gets credit for. Let's start by examining the plot of both films. The Terminator is about a killing machine sent back in time to eliminate someone destined to play a critical role in humanity's future. And a protector is also sent back to prevent this. Terminator 2, on the other hand, is about a killing machine sent back in time to eliminate someone destined to play a critical role in humanity's future, and a protector is sent back to prevent this. Usually sequels take the story in a new direction, but in this case, it's actually identical. The only real difference is that T1 focuses on protecting Sarah Connor, while T2 shifts to protecting her son, John Connor. It's the same plot, just applied to a slightly different target. Unsurprisingly, this also means that T2 mirrors most of T1's scene sequences. Both begin with a dystopian future in 2029 AD, followed by title sequences. Then, both transition to our present day, opening with a disorienting shot of a machine. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator arrives from the future in the same pose and then proceeds to encounter punks, whereupon he demands one surrender their clothes, prompting a fight. In T1, Kyle Reese arrives from the future, has a run-in with the police, and looks up his target, Sarah Connor. In T2, the T-1000 arrives from the future, has a run-in with the police, and looks up his target, John Connor. In T1, Sarah Connor bikes to work. In T2, John Connor bikes to the mall. It is here that T2 finally branches off from T1 by introducing the storyline that Sarah Connor is in a mental facility, but otherwise it continues on the same trajectory. In T1, the Terminator and Reese track down Sarah Connor. In T2, the Terminator and the T-1000 track down John Connor. In T1, Reese saves Sarah the moment she is about to be shot by the Terminator by shooting the Terminator with a shotgun. In T2, the Terminator saves John the moment he is about to be shot by the T-1000 by shooting the T-1000 with a shotgun. In T1, a chase ensues whereupon Reese and Sarah escape the Terminator and Kyle explains what is going on. In T2, a chase ensues whereupon the Terminator and John escape the T-1000 and the Terminator explains what is going on. At this point, T2 returns to the mental hospital storyline, while in T1, Reese and Sarah are arrested and taken to a police station. But it doesn't take long before the plots coincide once again. In T1, after the Terminator shoots up the police station, Reese and Sarah escape and hide. In T2, after the T-1000 infiltrates the mental hospital, the Terminator and John escape with Sarah and hide. In T1, Reese and Sarah acquire weapons and explosives. In T2, the Terminator, John, and Sarah acquire weapons and explosives. At this point, T2 segues into a plot to kill Miles Dyson and blow up Cyberdyne to prevent Judgment Day, which is, funny enough, an abandoned storyline from T1 that can be found as a deleted scene. At any rate, when this storyline concludes, the scene sequences between both films continue to be the same for the final act. In T1, the Terminator catches up to Reese and Sarah and chases them. In T2, the T-1000 catches up to the Terminator, John, and Sarah, and chases them. In T1, Reese blows up the Terminator's vehicle. In T2, the Terminator destroys the T-1000's vehicle. In T1, Reese and Sarah think the Terminator is finally dead until the Terminator returns to life. In T2, the Terminator, John, and Sarah think the T-1000 is finally dead until the T-1000 returns to life. In T1, the Terminator chases Reese and Sarah into an industrial facility. In T2, the T-1000 chases the Terminator, John, and Sarah into an industrial facility. In T1, Sarah forces Reese to keep running despite his injuries. In T2, John forces Sarah to keep running despite her injuries. In T1, after Reese and Sarah have to backtrack, Reese tells Sarah to run, fights the Terminator, and dies in the process. In T2, after the Terminator, John, and Sarah have to backtrack, the Terminator tells Sarah and John to run, fights the T-1000, and dies in the process. In T1, Sarah manages to kill the Terminator by pressing the switch. In T2, the Terminator and Sarah manage to kill the T-1000, then Sarah kills the Terminator by pressing a switch. In T1, the film ends with Sarah driving down an open road. In T2, the film ends with John and Sarah driving down an open road. With the exception of the mental hospital and Cyberdyne storylines, T2 parallels T1 almost scene for scene. But it doesn't stop there, because it even has the same identical actions and shots. First, there's the way Skynet's weapons are showcased in 2029. In T1, the Terminator steals a station wagon by punching in the window, whereas in T2, the Terminator steals what looks like the exact same station wagon by punching in the window. In T1, the Terminator drives up to the first Sarah Connor's house, while in T2, the T-1000 drives up to John Connor's house. In T1, Reese shoots the Terminator multiple times with a shotgun just as he's about to kill Sarah, while in T2, the Terminator shoots the T-1000 multiple times with a shotgun just as he's about to kill John. In both films, the Terminator ends up flying backwards through a glass window. In T1, the Terminator kills Matt and Ginger, who are surrogate relatives for Sarah, while in T2, the T-1000 kills Todd and Janelle, who are surrogate relatives for John. In T1, the Terminator impersonates Sarah's mother, while in T2, the T-1000 impersonates John's foster mother. In T1, Sarah hides from Reese at Tech Noir, while in T2, Sarah hides from the T-1000 at the hospital. In T1, Reese says to Sarah,
"Come with me if you want to live."
While in T2, the Terminator says to Sarah,
"Come with me if you want to live."
In T1, Reese drives in reverse with Sarah to get away from the Terminator, while in T2, the Terminator drives in reverse with Sarah and John to get away from the T-1000. In T1, the Terminator jumps onto the car and tries to break into the window. In T2, the T-1000 jumps on the car and tries to break in through the window. In T1, Reese fires his shotgun at the Terminator from the driver's seat. In T2, the Terminator fires his shotgun at the T-1000 from the driver's seat. In T1, Reese tells Sarah to drive while he fires a shotgun at the Terminator. In T2, the Terminator tells Sarah to drive while he fires a shotgun at the T-1000. In T1, the Terminator patches up his wounds. In T2, Sarah patches up the Terminator's wounds. In T1, Reese talks to Sarah about John's father. In T2, the Terminator talks to John about John's father. In T1, Reese tells Sarah the message John sent her from the future. In T2, Sarah carves part of that message John sent her into a bench. Oddly enough,
the future's not set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves.
Is not the message Reese told Sarah, because it was actually,
"The future is not set. You must be stronger than you imagine you can be. You must survive or I will never exist."
But close enough, I guess. In T1, Reese has an apocalyptic dream of the future in which he dies. In T2, Sarah has an apocalyptic dream of the future in which she dies. In T1, Reese and Sarah rig explosives. In T2, the Terminator and Sarah rig explosives. In T1, Reese and Sarah bond. In T2, John and the Terminator bond. In T1, Reese wears a green coat. In T2, Sarah wears what appears to be the same green coat. In T1, the Terminator attacks the police station. In T2, the Terminator attacks the entire police force, albeit without any casualties. In T1, the Terminator takes a truck after his vehicle is destroyed. In T2, the T-1000 takes a truck after his vehicle is destroyed. In T1, the Terminator says,
"Get out."
While in T2, the T-1000 says,
"Get out."
In T1, Reese gets shot by the Terminator. In T2, Sarah gets shot by the T-1000. In T1, Reese leaves Sarah and blows up the Terminator's truck. In T2, the Terminator leaves Sarah and John and blows up the T-1000 truck. In T1, the Terminator exits a burning truck. In T2, the T-1000 exits a freezing truck. In T1, the Terminator finds Reese and Sarah on the stairs in the facility, whereupon Reese tells her to run and gets wounded. In T2, the T-1000 finds John and Sarah on the stairs in the facility, whereupon Sarah tells John to run and gets wounded. In T1, Reese fights the Terminator and gets killed. In T2, the Terminator fights the T-1000 and gets killed. With all of this in mind, it's almost as if T2 followed a cookie-cutter template to match T1. But that said, T2 is not a complete remake of T1. Despite the similarities, there are quite a few differences. T1 is essentially a horror film that was made with a $6.4 million budget in 1984. T2 is considered more of an action film that was made with a $100 million budget in 1991. Though Arnold Schwarzenegger does reprise the same role in both films, the Terminator is the villain in T1, but the hero in T2. While T1 presents a step-by-step method for how the Terminator and Reese both manage to acquire clothes, guns, and transportation, T2 has the Terminator and T-1000 acquire everything they need from the same place in their first scene. In T1, the Terminator kills almost everyone he comes across. While in T2, a major theme of the film is to get the Terminator not to kill anybody.
He'll live.
In T1, we never actually see John Connor, which elevates the character to that of a legend.
I'd die for John Connor.
While in T2, not only do we see John in the present and the future, but he's one of the main characters in the film. T1 contains a deleted scene in which Sarah tries to convince Reese that they should blow up Cyberdyne to prevent Judgment Day. T2, on the other hand, fleshes that out into one of the major plot lines of the film. T1 develops a love story between Sarah and Reese, which establishes Reese as John's father, while T2 develops a familial love story between John and the Terminator, where the Terminator takes on the role of the father figure that Reese would have been had he not died. T1 was made during the Cold War, which is probably why the film ends on a bleak note of impending doom. T2, on the other hand, was made in 1991 after the Cold War ended, which is probably why the film ends with optimistic hope. Lastly, while T1 focuses on how an ordinary person can rise to the challenge of saving mankind, that technological innovation could eventually destroy humanity, and that the future is not set, T2 adds the idea that
if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too.
But despite these differences, in the end, the filmmakers basically gave us the same film twice. T2 clearly copied the overall plot, specific scene sequences, and even many of the same shots from the original Terminator. And while it features better special effects, a higher budget, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as the hero, these selling points are not enough to hide just how derivative the film actually is. Casting Schwarzenegger as the hero eliminates the possibility of it being a horror film, since the audience knows that there's no way he can lose, no matter how terrifying the T-1000 is. Terminator 2 even uses the Deus Ex Machina trope, which means God from the machine, to bring Arnold back to life to save the day, whereas in T1, when Reese dies, he's dead for good, and the Terminator still keeps on coming. So with all of this in mind, why does nobody seem to notice that they basically already saw this film? Is Schwarzenegger really more captivating as a good guy? Or is it because better special effects matter more than plot or character? Seriously, I'm asking. I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe so you'll be notified when my next video about the original Terminator film goes up. Because if you think T2 is a stronger film, just wait until you see how subtly artistic T1 actually is. I'll post the link in the video description below when it goes live. Hope to see you there.